Another exciting time. Oh, absolutely. Alrighty.
Hi there.
Greetings.
How's everyone doing?
Doing well.
I don't know. Pop quiz of the night. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. How about telling me, take 60 seconds to tell me in a sentence or so, what is a class gift? How do we? What is a class? And what's the common law rule? That's all you got to tell me. The common law rule. Class gift. What's a class? And what's the class gift? The common law class gift rule. Okay. 60 seconds. Let's see if you remember it from last week. Remember we were doing class gifts last week? I forget. But I'm old. All right, time's up. And before we get to that, let me just make a couple of announcements. You got a long email from me, right, about where we're going this week and what nights we're doing what. Next Tuesday night's the big night, right? That's the big night. And you need to be here. So please try not to miss Tuesday night. We're doing evaluations. I'll talk about the exam that night, and we'll just finish up whatever we haven't finished up this week. I also have done the video, and it should be posted by, I don't know, Monday-ish or something like that, Monday or Tuesday. But the video for your makeup class, remember, no class the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. The video makeup of that, I guess you in this class you could take it out if you want to. Now, I may post it on Monday and you can look at it, but it may be Tuesday. But I'll let you know. I'll send you an email, let you know how to access it. And then remember, there will be a series of a few questions at the end of the lecture, but very easy to refer to answer if you have looked at the lecture, and you can send them back to me via email, and if you get them mainly right, then you'll be counted as being present. If you don't get them right or don't send them back, then you'll be counted as being absent that day. Do as you see fit. Okay, but do watch that video, because there are questions. I warned you, there'll be questions on the final exam from that video. So please watch it. Or don't watch it, and that way I can spread out the curve. Okay, it's up to you entirely. I promise you, there will be questions on the final from that video, because it's important stuff. It's not going to be a 30-minute essay, I promise. It might be a short answer, it might be a couple of multiple choice questions, or it might be some stuff I combined from that video with some of the stuff we've done earlier in the semester. I've also given a couple of examples and hypos in that video that might work their way onto the exam. So do pay attention to that. Okay, and tonight, row 3 is on call, is that right? Yes. That's you, Mr. Navarro? Heavens no, it's the row behind you, right? The sparsely inhabited row behind you. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, great. Let's talk about a class gift. What is a class, and what's the common law rule for class gifts where the will is silent? Leave aside the anti-class provision. First of all, who wants to define a class? Oh, someone does. Ms. Anderson?
Class is where a group of people meet the same description and have the same relationship to the decedent.
Well, it may or may not be the same relationship to the decedent, but yes, it is a group of people who are described by a label and they share the common characteristic, right? It might be to all of the let's see, all the members of Joe Spurlock's current family law class. They may not have any relationship to me if I leave something to them in my will, right? But they would all share that same common characteristic and be able to be described by that label. So you're right. Yes, Stacy, you're right about that. You want to go for the class gift rule? What's the common law class gift rule, which applies unless the will provides otherwise, or unless the anti-lapse provision, the anti-lapse statute applies, which we did last week. Remember?
Is it the rule about, is it the rule about one of the members predeceasing the other?
Yes, if one of the members of the class predeceases the testator, then absent the anti-lapse provision or absent express provision in the will, what happens to that predeceasing class member's share?
It splits among the others.
It splits among the other members of the class. It doesn't lapse and fall into the residuary estate. Exactly right. Okay, and that's what we covered last class, the whole class. That's 75 minutes. No, that was about the 5 or 10 or 15 minutes of class, but I just want to see if you all remember. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, however, tonight we are starting with assignment number 10, and we're in chapter 7, and it's the third row, right? It is the third row that's on call. And let me start with, this is a mix of statutory material and common law material. The first part of what we're going to deal with there's a lot of statutory material. Well, it's I guess, scattered throughout. So, will contests. And remember, there are all sorts of grounds on which wills can be contested. Wills can be challenged. We've already seen some of them, and we'll repeat some of that. We'll see some more tonight, this week actually, tonight and probably into Thursday night. And then we'll also we'll review some of them in just a moment. So let's start with procedural matters on page 249. Section 55.001. I'm on page 130 of your statutory supplement. Page 130. Can you write these numbers on the board, Alton? No, because that would slow me down too much. Yes, that's what we want. Tough luck. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I've got a lot of material I got to cover. Because I know where I began, right? I know it's I've got to do assignments 10, 11, and 12 this week, 10 next week. So sorry about that. Section 55.001 says, a person interested in an estate may at any time before the court decides an issue in a proceeding file written opposition regarding the issue. The person will have a process for witnesses and evidence to be heard on the opposition as in other suits. So, an interested person, a person interested may intervene in a proceeding regarding a will with respect to a will or a decedent estate. Could be a intestate decedent as well. So what does it mean to be an interested person or a person interested? Look at section 22.018. Look on page 112 of your statutory supplement. Page 112, 22.018. An interested person or person interested means subsection 1. Don't worry about subsection 2. That's right now. Don't worry about it. It means an heir, devisee, spouse, creditor, or any other party having a property right in or claim against an estate that is being administered. Okay, that is who a interested person is. That is who has standing to bring a will contest, to contest the admission of a will to probate, petition of probate of a will. That's the person who has standing, who has an interest, who can do that. Question 2 on page 249. Are institutions of higher education and charitable organizations which are named as beneficiaries in a will, are they necessary parties to a will contest? You know the answer must be yes. Why would they ask otherwise? Go back to page 130 of your statutory supplement and look at 55.052. An institution of higher education, a private institution of higher education, or a charitable organization that is a distributee, beneficiary, under a will, is a necessary party to a will contest or will construction suit involving the will. Yeah, you could probably guess that. But again, there it is for your amazement and amusement. Number 3, is the contestant of a will entitled to a jury trial? Yeah, the answer to that must be yes. And look on the same page, section 55.002, titled Jury Trial. In a contested probate or mental illness proceeding, don't worry about the mental illness proceeding in a probate court, a party is entitled to a jury trial as in other civil actions. So yes, a will contestant could be entitled to a jury trial. Number 4, statute of limitations. What's the statute of limitations for being in a will contest, and under what circumstances might the statute be told? That's 4 and 5. There's an example of it in problem number 5. So 4 and 5, let's look at the statute of limitations for a will contest. First, let's review and remind ourselves what the statute of limitations is generally for filing a will for probate. How long do we generally have, and where would I find that? Look in section 256.003. We'll find that on, we'll come back to page 130 in a second. We'll find that on page 224. Page 224 of your statutory supplement, subsection A. You didn't know there was so much junk in this first half page of questions, did you, on page 249 of the case book? Subsection A, ... A will may not be admitted to probate after the 4th anniversary of the testator's death. Okay, so the general rule is 4 years from after the time the testator dies, you have 4 years, that's the statute of limitations, to file a will for probate, to have a will admitted to probate, with an exception. So how long after the will has been admitted to probate do we have to contest the will? That's the question. That's question number 4 on page 249. And if you'll look back on, we're back on page. Oh no, we're not back on page 130, are we? We're back on page 229, right? We were on 228 a second ago, or 224 a second ago. Now we're on 229, aren't we? Period of contest. Section 256.204. That's it. There we are. 256.204. Subsection A, after will is admitted to probate. Okay, we've got 4 years. General 4 years from the time of the decedent's death to have a will admitted to probate. After will is admitted to probate, an interested person, we know what an interested person is, that's a person who has a pecuniary interest in the estate, may commence suit to contest the validity thereof, the validity of the will contest has 2 years from the time the will is admitted to probate, not later than the 2nd anniversary of the date the will is admitted to probate. 2 years. Okay. 4 years to have the will admitted to probate, and then once it's admitted to probate, if it's admitted to probate, 2 years thereafter to contest the will, except notice that an interested person may commence a suit to cancel will for forgery or other fraud not later than the 2nd anniversary of the date that forgery or fraud was discovered. So it's 2 years from the time the will is admitted to probate to contest the will, or in the case of forgery or fraud, there's a discovery rule. It's 2 years after the discovery of that forgery or fraud, which may be more than 2 years after the will is admitted to probate. Okay. All right, let's see. What else? What about the tolling? They ask about tolling. The statute of limitations is tolled under what circumstances for contesting the will? Look at subsection B. We're still in 256.204. Subsection B. ... An incapacitated person. Now that's when it's tolled. When the person who's entitled to bring suit or is interested is incapacitated. An incapacitated person may commence the contest under the subsection above on or before the 2nd anniversary of the date the person's disabilities are removed. Give me examples of disabilities. Age, right? They're minor, okay? And indeed, problem number 5 is an example of that. The person was held in that case, problem 5 on page 249. Donnie was 6 years old when his mother died. Before admitting his mother's will to probate, the court appointed a guardian ad litem to represent Donnie's interests. The guardian ad litem did not contest the will. After reaching age 18, his disability is removed. May Donnie contest the will? Held, yes. Okay. Would your answer be different if the guardian ad litem had contested the will and lost? I don't know about that. I suspect yes, but I don't know. So I won't ask you that one. But it is 2 years after the incapacity is removed. The disability is removed. One might be minority. What's the other kind of one that jumps out at us, incapacity. How else might someone be incapacitated?
Actual health issues.
Yeah, mental health issues or actual health issues. Yeah, they might be in a coma. They might be otherwise of unsound mind. Yeah, those would be two main ones. How about service in the armed service during time of war? I don't know about that one. That's an incapacity for adverse possession that I know about this. So I think those are the two main ones: being a minor or being mentally incapacitated in some way. Okay. Let's see. I don't know. Questions about that? It's pretty straightforward stuff. I'm going to ask us about this on the final exam. I don't know. I probably haven't asked about bringing suit. I asked a lot about will contest generally. So all these things we're going to do about fraud and duress and undue influence and some of the other things we've talked about, we'll talk about again in a moment, mention again in just a moment. Yeah, I'll ask you about those things. Procedural stuff, I generally don't ask about that. I don't recall, honestly, ever asking about the statute of limitations for filing a will for probate. That's 4 years. Okay, or contesting a will, that's 2 years, but I don't think I've ever asked about that. Probably not, because you could do with that. Yeah, you could look all the rest of this stuff up too. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking, Mr. Nicholson. I could look up all the rest of this stuff too. Yeah, you're right, you could, but I have to ask about something, right? And finally, otherwise I just have to give everyone actually I have to give everyone a B, right?
Okay.
Yeah, some people are ready to take it right now. Some people take the B. Some people are conservative and aren't risk takers. You're not poker players. You're not gamblers. I understand that some of you want to take it. Wish I could. Okay. Look on page 250 and look at some of the other legal challenges to a will. We've talked about some of these things. Lack of capacity, lack of legal capacity. Remember section 251.003, except it's 251.001. Do you remember 003? It's not that. It's 001. And let's just look at 251.001. Here again, we find on page. Someone call it out. 204. What? 204. Thank you. 204. Who may execute a will? Under the rules and limitations prescribed by law, a person of sound mind. So, right, lack of mental capacity, they're not of sound mind. 2, has the right to execute a will, has the right and power to make a last will and testament if the time person is 18 years of age or older, is or has been married as a member of the armed forces, right? So, maybe someone lacks legal capacity. They aren't of sound mind, or they aren't of 18 years old, or is or has been married, or in the military if they're under 18 years old, right? 251.001. So we can challenge a will saying the testator didn't have capacity, mental capacity or otherwise, testamentary capacity. We also can challenge a will based on lack of testamentary intent. We spent a fair amount of time throughout the course of this semester seeing cases and working through some examples where it appears that testator lacked testamentary intent. He didn't mean by that, or she didn't mean by that very instrument to make a revocable disposition of her estate, of her property, to take effect upon her death. We also can challenge a will based on lack of due execution, not meeting the formal execution requirements, 251.051, page 205. And right, will has to be in writing and signed by the testator, and unless it's wholly in testator's handwriting, it has to be a photographic will, then it has to also be attested, signed by 2 witnesses, right? So we could say the formal execution requirements of 051, or if it's a holographic will, 052, haven't been complied with. We can do that as well. We challenge the will for that as well, on those grounds as well. As we're going to see tonight and then into next time, we can challenge a will for certain other matters. Insane delusion, undue influence, duress, fraud, the fact that the bequest is void bequest. And we're going to see examples of all those things. Under certain circumstances, a mistake. Sometimes a mistake will amount to lack of testamentary intent, as we'll see. So each and every one of these grounds, the challenge of will, permits introduction of extrinsic evidence to prove that, to prove that challenge, to prove that the will is invalid for one of those reasons. We've also seen, where else have we seen we can admit extrinsic evidence to vary the terms of the will? Latent ambiguity and patent ambiguity as well now, right? Always a latent ambiguity, but now the modern rule is a patent ambiguity as well. Extrinsic evidence is admissible to vary the plain meaning of the will. Well, if it's a patent ambiguity, it doesn't have plain meaning. If it's latent, it appears to have plain meaning, but extrinsic evidence is admissible. Now, what about generally a mistake? If the will is unambiguous, but is the product of mistake, or the product of testator's particularly unusual use or mistaken use of language, can extrinsic evidence, and if so, under what circumstances, can extrinsic evidence be admitted to vary the plain meaning of the will to show that it was a product of a mistake? What's the general rule? Is extrinsic evidence admissible to vary the plain meaning of the will, even if it's a product of a mistake? You're shaking your heads no, and you're correct. The general rule is no. What's the exception? New exception. 255.451, what? That's the Scrivener's error. It sure is. Subsection A3 is the Scrivener's error. If the mistake is a product of the drafter's error, and that can be shown by clear and convincing evidence, then an interested party can contest the will or have a court ask for the will to be reformed under those circumstances and corrected. An interested party? Nope, only the personal representative. Remember, 255.451, subsection A3, only the personal representative, executor, or administrator of the estate has standing to show by clear and convincing evidence that the will was a product of the Scrivener's error, some part of the will was a product of the Scrivener's error, and therefore a court should order that the will be corrected or reformed. Only the personal representative, not any appointed beneficiary. By the way, we talked about, let's say this, I don't want to correct you with it, maybe it correct you with the impression I might have left you with. I just was musing, because this is a brand new statute, right? It just went into effect September 1, 255.451, subsection A3. And I talked with my colleague Terry Helge last week. I don't think I mentioned this to you. I was talking to her about that. I said, Scrivener's error. So what if it's a holographic will? What if the Scrivener was the testator himself or herself? She says, I don't. I said, I thought the testator could be the Scrivener. She said, I don't think so. I don't think that was the intention behind the statute. The intention behind the statute was that not the testator made an error, but someone else, the drafter of the will. Usually it's going to be an attorney. It's not the attorney for the testator. Likely the person who wrote it down was, unless they're an attorney, they're engaged in unauthorized practice of law, but we'll leave that aside for a moment. So the person who drafts the will, other than the testator, is the Scrivener who made the error. The testator, it's a holographic will, the testator drafted it herself or himself. Terry Helge doesn't think that A3 applies. Now what? The testator just stuck with it for her own error. I don't know. I think I mentioned at some point in passing, I thought that the testator could be his or her own Scrivener. We'll find out. I'm sure that at some point in the next 5 years, there's going to be a case that's going to let us know if the testator himself or herself in a holographic will can be the Scrivener. Or not, maybe not in a holographic will. Maybe the testator will type up a will and we'll sign it and then get 2 witnesses to sign it, and it'll be duly executed, but it'll be one provision or more will be the product of a mistake. So the testator will be a Scrivener. Very healthy says no. So there you go. Question about that before we start going into some of these other reasons for challenging a will. Okay, excellent, excellent. Page, where are we now? 271, that's right. I told you I was going to skip around. Look on, let's skip ahead to 271, so I'm going to take care of mistake. As long as we were talking about 255.451 A3, let's talk about mistake beginning on page 271. And then we'll come back to the materials on page 250. Mistake. And we've seen some examples. Look at, well, let me ask you, this. So let me let Professor Fire ask you this. On page 271, we're talking about mistake in execution or in factum, and bottom of 271, we've got a case on mistake in the inducement. Note 1 on page 274. I'm sorry, note 1 on page 274. Come back to page 271. Says, what's the difference between mistake in the factum or execution on the one hand and a mistake in the inducement on the other hand? What's the difference? What's a mistake in factum and a mistake in execution? What do you think? Kind of just in lay terms, what would you say?
Well, just no, I don't have to grab by example. She signs something that she doesn't think is a will, but it's actually a will.
Right. Testator didn't know the nature of the instrument that she was executing. She didn't think it was her will, but it was her will. Or she thought that it had substantially different terms in it than it did. Someone made a bad mistake as to what terms were in it or what terms weren't in it. Or she knew she was signing a will, but she signed the wrong one. Right? We've got some examples of that on page 271. A mistake in the inducement is what?
There's like a rely on it. You believe certain facts to be true, and you go ahead and execute your will based on that mistake you believe.
Okay, there's a mistaken belief, right? Somehow there's some, you're right, mistaken extrinsic fact or legal effect or something like that that the testator is relying on, and the testator knows its will, the testator knows what's in it, but doesn't. There's something extrinsic to it. So what does that mean? What the hell does all that mean? Now let's go back and work through examples of these kinds of things. Okay. So on back to page 271, here's some examples of mistake in execution in factum. Note 1, in a hurry, testator signed her holographic will, believing the document to be a letter to her mother. Is the will entitled to probate? Why or why not? Of course not. Why not? What's missing there? What? Lack of testamentary intent. Exactly right. She made a mistake and there was no testamentary intent. She signed her will, but she didn't intend to sign her will in that instance. She intended to sign a letter. Is extrinsic evidence admissible to show lack of testamentary intent? Of course it is. In every one of these will challenges, extrinsic evidence is admissible, except to correct a mistake in the inducement, except under certain limited circumstances that we are going to see. As we've seen, it's about 451 page 3, and we'll continue to see. How about number 2? Testator signs her husband's will rather than her own. Is that will entitled to probate either as her will or her husband's will? Of course not. Why not? What's the challenge? Lack of testamentary intent. That she intended to sign her will, but that wasn't her will. So she wasn't, by this document, passing her property at her death. She signed her husband's will by mistake, just like signing a letter or some other instrument. She wanted to sign her will, but she didn't sign her will. Is it admissible as her husband's will? No, because he didn't sign it, right? So that's not admissible at all. How about number 3 and 4? Testator told his attorney to include in the will a $10,000 gift to Harvey New, right? See that? That's, I think, why he did that. Attorney inadvertently failed to include this gift. May the gift be added to the will by extrinsic evidence. How about number 4? It's the converse of that. Draft the will included a $10,000 gift to Harvey No One. Testator told the attorney, take it out. But the attorney forgot to do so. Is the gift effective? In number 3 and number 4, before September 1 of this year, the answer is number 3, may this gift be added to the will? Nope. And number 4, is the gift to Harvey effective? And number 4, yes. If the will is a product of a mistake, but its language is clear and unambiguous, extrinsic evidence wasn't admissible to correct the mistake in the will. Now, how does 255.451A3 change all of that? To what extent does that change? Extrinsic evidence admissible under what circumstances? If the personal representative, that's the only party with standing, it's not the standing to bring that contest or that suit to reform or correct the will. the personal representative brings a challenge or brings a suit to reform or correct the will and can prove the mistake by what standard? Clear and convincing evidence. I understand. Not mere preponderance evidence, but clear and convincing evidence. Okay. So 3 and 4, the general answer is extrinsic evidence isn't admissible to correct those mistakes in the will, unless 255.451A, the personal representative is the one who asks for the mistake to be corrected, in order to correct the mistake, and the personal representative can show the mistake, prove the mistake by clear and convincing. Okay. All right. How about? Oh, by the way, personal representative 255.451. Is the personal representative under any duty to bring that suit? No. 255.455 says the personal representative is under no duty to bring the suit, is under no duty to inform the beneficiaries of the existence of the suit, and isn't even under a duty to review the will to see if there might be a mistake in the will. It's pretty darn limited. A3, 451A3 is pretty darn limited change in the whole plain meaning rule. All right, 271, mistake in the inducement occurs, as we've said, when the testator is not mistaken about the nature of the instrument nor its contents, but is mistaken about some other extrinsic fact or legal effect of the instrument in some way. And if testator wouldn't have executed the instrument had testator known the truth, then that is a mistake. When this type of mistake occurs, as a general rule, extrinsic evidence is not admissible to vary the plain meaning of the will. However, when this kind of mistake occurs, extrinsic evidence is admissible to change the testamentary disposition in what instance that we've seen in the last couple of weeks that we've seen. When a mistake, when testator is mistaken about the legal effect of something, shall I say, surrounding the will, then extrinsic evidence is admissible in what? What's the situation? What do we call that? I know I'm asking you to read my mind. What? DRR. When it's kind of mistake, testator's mistake about the legal effect of the revocation of the will because of, say, an invalid subsequent disposition, mistaken subsequent disposition, then extrinsic evidence is admissible to correct that mistaken revocation of the will, but not the execution. See the asymmetry there? That's why this doesn't go far enough. But that's, don't be crazy. Many of you have, I'm sure. Okay. All right. Carpenter versus Tinney is an example of the plain meaning rule. What happened in the Carpenter case? Who wants to take the Carpenter case? It's simply a mistake in the inducement, and it shows the general rule, the general application. Extrinsic evidence is not admissible to vary the plain meaning of the will. You want to take this one? Okay, Mr. Dwyer. What was the mistake in this case?
The mistake is that a testator believes her husband had given all of his property to two of his siblings.
Right. There are 4 children. Testator and her husband had 4 children. And testator's husband died a couple years before that. She was under the mistaken belief that he had given all of his property to 2 of those 4 children. So what did she do?
She gave all of her property
to the other 2 children because she thought she was evening it out. Instead, as it turned out, she was mistaken because instead, testator, the husband had done what? He had left his half of it. He left it evenly to all 4 children. So now she thought she was evening it out, and in fact, she wasn't evening it out. 2 of the 4 children had a larger share of the total estate of husband and wife than the other 2 children. She was mistaken about that. And so who are the contestants in this case? Who are the interested parties?
Well, the 2 children.
Yeah, the 2 children have the lesser share. That's exactly right. The 2 children that she didn't leave it to because they hadn't been favored by their father, as it turned out. Was extrinsic evidence admissible to prove under any circumstances, like learning convincing evidence or otherwise, heightened burden of heightened standard of proof or otherwise, is extrinsic evidence admissible to correct this mistake? No. How about 255.451 subsection A3. Would that have changed the result in this case? Why not? I think you're right. I don't think so either. There's no evidence to what?
There's no evidence that she meant to have something else down there.
That this was a product of Scrivener's error, right? She knew what she was doing. She was mistaken, but she knew what she was doing. Now, if she had revoked her will based on this kind of mistake, she might have, the court might apply DRR and cancel or ignore that revocation, but not executing it based on this mistake. And it's a little asymmetrical, I think, but that is that's the result. Is there any other challenge that might work here? Do you think of anything else that we're going to talk about tonight that we haven't talked about yet? Do you think of something? Well, tell me the facts. How long between the time testator died and her husband had died before? He predeceased her. How long was it? Do you recall? Something like
8 months before her husband. Okay, that was before. 2 years after.
It was 2 years, right? There was 2 years, and that's one of the things the court said. She could have known the contents of her husband's will. She could have figured that out in 2 years and seen that she shouldn't have left it that way because, in fact, he didn't leave all of his property to 2 out of the 4 kids. He left it equally, and she should have known and adjusted accordingly. She didn't do it, so the court said, we're not going to correct that mistake. Maybe she didn't want to tell the kids, but that's what she wanted. Who knows? Okay? She had plenty of time to correct that mistake. Is there any other challenge that these 2 disappointed children might be able to bring? We need more facts, but maybe, just maybe, insane delusion. That's what I think, right? No reasonable person who read it or had the opportunity to read the husband's will in 2 years would have thought that he left it to only 2 people when, in fact, he left it to four people, all 4 kids, not merely 2 of the kids. You need more facts, but it's possible. That's what jumped out at me. Okay. Great. That's all I want to take away from that case. Notes on page 274. We just talked about note 1 a few moments ago. Note 2, what's the policy behind the court's refusal to remedy mistakes not induced by fraud, undue influence, or other bad conduct, evil conduct, malconduct? What is it? Remember the plain meaning rule? We don't correct mistakes other than this one limited instance by statute. Because why? Why not? We talked about it before. We talked about the plain meaning rule. Why? What's the policy behind it? Well, can't prove it, but well, maybe we could prove it. We're not allowed to prove it, right? So why are we not allowed to prove it? Yeah, I can show that it's a product of mistake. I can show it by putting it together. Get out of my courtroom. You can't do it. We won't even allow you. That cause of action. Why not? Yeah, judicial efficiency, right? The floodgates of litigation. Oh my gosh, we don't want disappointed beneficiaries bringing suit because the will was a product of a mistake. We're not going to admit extrinsic evidence to vary the plain meaning of a will, even if the will was a product or disposition was a product of a mistake, except in this very limited instance, right? You can't prove it. What if we could prove it? No. We won't allow you in court to prove it unless we are showing that mistake by clear and convincing evidence, and it was based on a Scrivener's error. Okay. How about number 3 on page 273? Testator's will in relevant part reads, because A is dead, I leave the $25,000 I would have given to A to B. If A is actually alive upon testator's death, will A receive the $25,000? Well, gee, that doesn't seem to be a Scrivener's error. That seems to be the testator's error. The mistake is written on the face of the will, so you don't need. This is an unusual situation. This isn't going to come up very often. It's written on the face of the will, so we don't need to resort to extrinsic evidence to show what the mistake was. I mean, other than the fact that A is still alive, right? But we don't have to resort to extrinsic evidence to show what the disposition would have been. It's written on the face of the will. Seems unusual. I would think that the plain meaning rule would still bar admitting extrinsic evidence to correct that, except there is one early Texas case. Did you want the cite for the early Texas case? I don't have it. I know it's here. I don't have it somewhere, but I'm looking at my notes and I don't have it. So I'm just going to take my word for it. There's an early Texas case that, at least by way of dicta, indicated that A could be awarded. That they weren't squarely faced with this situation. They just said in passing along the way that hypothetically, if this situation came up, they could be awarded the $25,000 because both the mistake and the alternative disposition that clearly showed the mistake or what testator would have intended were right there on the face of the will. The causation, you could see it on the face of the will. The testator said, I'm not leaving $25,000 because A is dead. You know. But for that mistake, they would have left, the testator would have left Alice the $25,000. And we know, because it's only necessary to show that Alice wasn't dead, that Alice in fact survived the testator. Okay? You wouldn't need extrinsic evidence. You would have to resort to extrinsic evidence to prove the alternative disposition. I think this would occur very, very frequently in execution of the will. In revocation of the will, DRR, like conditional revocation, extrinsic evidence admissible all the time to show that the revocation was made under a mistake. Not execution. Okay. Back to page. That's all we need to do with mistake. And some of that you already knew, right? Some of that we already talked about, which is why I wanted to jump ahead to mistake to begin with. And now we'll jump back to page 250, and let's talk about insane delusion as one of the grounds for challenging the will. And the Lindley case, Lindley versus Lindley, gives us some, gives us the definition, the rule as to what constitutes an insane delusion, and gives us some examples of insane delusions on page 251. What is the rule? What is an insane delusion? What is it? The belief our bill?
The belief that was was facts that united these, and there's no rational person who can believe.
There it is. At the bottom of page 251, you're exactly right. Thank you very much. Citing Knight versus Edwards, make up side a lot. The belief of a state of supposed facts, supposed in the mind of the testator, that in reality do not exist, which no rational person, or rational person would believe. Then, middle of page 251, here's some examples. Examples of such false beliefs are cases where the testator believes in spite of the fact that all evidence was to the contrary, that the sun has been to the planet Mars and conspired against the United States and could therefore be disinherited. No rational person would believe that. Or that his wife was plotting to kill him. If that's against all evidence, I don't know, maybe a rational person might believe that. No. If that's against all evidence, no, no, no. Or that his daughter had murdered his father. Well, it might be hard to prove this, but if we could show, you could show, by reference to something in the real world, that daughter did murder his father, daughter murdered grandfather, or not. Okay? And no rational person would believe that because that was not the case. So, or that he was hated by his brothers and sisters who were bent on persecuting him. I want to get back to that example in just a moment. What was the insane delusion here? The court said could be shown, and if it were proven, then it would invalidate the will. What was the insane delusion in Lindley versus Lindley? Anyone?
You believe that
Thank you.
believe that her son would have lived had he not gone to the hospital.
We believe that the son would have lived had he not gone to the mental institution, and she believed more than that.
She also believes somehow that Rufus and Mary.
The other two siblings that sent the son, sent their brother, she believes they sent the brother to the mental institution when they didn't, and that he died because he was in the mental institution. That was it true? It was a state of facts that she supposed in her mind that were contrary to the truth, and no rational person would believe. They had no basis in reality, no evidence to show, or there was at least sufficient evidence to show that there was no basis in reality for her belief. Okay? And because of that, the will may have been a product, or her testimony disposition may have been a product of the insane delusion. Look at. By the way, if now let's go. Let's pop over the notes afterwards on page 254. I've got a couple more points I want to make about the page, and we'll come back and do it this way. What's an insane delusion? We've already talked about that. You approve the court's definition. Why or why not? I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you do. don't. May a person have an insane delusion, note 3, or may have testamentary capacity even though suffering from an insane delusion. And the court talked about this. Could you have general testamentary capacity? In other words, is insane delusion a separate ground from general soundness of mind, or is it the same ground? Are they really one and the same? It's separate. It's entirely separate. I could have general mental capacity. I could know generally who the objects of my bounty are. I could know that I was what business I was engaged in, that I was executing the will. I could know the general property that I have, right, the extent of my property. I know how I'm disposing of it, and I can collect in my mind all the things hold them long enough in order to make a rational disposition. Okay, pretty low standard. I could have, but I could have state of soundness of mind, and yet I could still be laboring under an insane delusion that on that one point, this unusual point that I have in mind, this supposed state of facts that no rational person would believe and which in the real world do not exist, on that one thing, I am, in essence, insane. And if that affects my testamentary disposition, then that testamentary disposition, the entire will, if it's the entire will, or that one gift, if it's only one gift, can be struck. That can be declared invalid, or can strike that, the lack of testamentary capacity, even though I'm otherwise of sound mind. But remember, note 4 on page 254. There must be a connection, causation, between the insane delusion and the terms of the will. I love it. A man may believe himself to be the supreme ruler of the universe from the insane delusion, and nevertheless make a perfectly sensible disposition of his property. And the courts will sustain it when it appears that this mania did not dictate the provisions of the will. So the insane delusion has to cause the challenged will or testamentary disposition if it's less than the entire will. And if insane delusion can be shown by extrinsic evidence, then, in fact, that portion of the will, the product of the insane delusion, will be struck down, or the entire will be struck down if the entire will is a product of the insane delusion. Note 2 on page 254. However, Knight versus Edwards goes on to say, one cannot be said to act under an insane delusion whose condition of mind results from an inference or process of reasoning, however illogical, from facts which are shown to exist. Moreover, an insane delusion cannot be based on substantive facts. It has to be based on facts that can be shown to be true or false in the physical world. So, I go back. Let's turn back to Lindley versus Lindley and some of the examples. Page 251, let's go back to this one. Example of an insane delusion. That the testator was hated by his brothers and sisters who were bent on persecuting him. Is that an insane delusion which will invalidate the will or that testamentary disposition? I think it's not insane delusion. I'll tell you why. Again, insane delusion has to be formed by reference to facts in the physical world. So if testator didn't leave anything to one of her children because she thought the child hated her or didn't love her enough, was prosecuting, we can tell. Persecuting, we may not be able to tell. That might be subjective. If my brothers and sisters hate me and they're persecuting me, and therefore I don't want to leave them anything, even if I'm wrong about that, even if they love me, that's not anything I can show by reference to the physical world. That's entirely subjective. Not all states feel this way, but Texas feels this way. If the so-called insane delusion is a product of testator's irrational but subjective feeling, that can't be an insane delusion. And the will or the testamentary disposition cannot be struck down. It's got to be by reference to something in the physical world. Lindley versus Lindley, why is that in the physical world? Why is that an insane delusion? How's that different than my brothers and sisters are persecuting me, they hate me, and my children don't love me enough? How's what happened in Lindley different? could actually show that the siblings didn't send their brother to the mental institution, and facts could show whether their brother died or not as a result of being incarcerated in the mental institution. We could prove that in the physical world. It might be hard, but we could do it. And there was sufficient evidence to show that. And therefore, that was an insane delusion. Okay. Let's see what else I want to say about this. Note 5. How about this one? Mike on page 254. Note 5. Mike believed he would be reincarnated as Kelly. Under this belief, Mike executed a will leaving $100,000 to Kelly. How can he be reincarnated as Kelly? Kelly's already alive. Okay, all right. May the will be set aside on the basis of insane delusion. What do you think? Is that a supposed state of facts that we could prove in the physical world that no rational person would believe? Yes, I know there's some religious beliefs that believe in reincarnation. But into someone who's already alive, I think that's an insane delusion. I think that would avoid that request. What happens? Okay, $100,000. Note 5, Mike left $100,000 to Kelly because I believe that I will be reincarnated as Kelly, or extrinsic evidence is admissible to show the insane delusion that doesn't have to be recited on the face of the will, and all the rest and residue of my estate, I'm not talking, all the rest and residue of my estate is Texas A&M University. What happens if that $100,000 is the product of an insane delusion? Who takes it and why? It's void, therefore it lapses and falls into residuary. That's the residuary advisee. Texas A&M University. Exactly right. Now, if testator left his entire estate, let's suppose his entire estate, my entire estate to Kelly, that's the product of an insane delusion, then the entire will would be void, not merely that testamentary disposition, but the entire will was a product of the insane delusion. And if the entire will was a product of the insane delusion, and the gift to Kelly was void, my entire estate to Kelly, I'm saying this all the property, my entire estate to Kelly, if I pick up that they're incarnated as Kelly, product of insane delusion, then what happens? What? Well, it might be passing custody. I think that's likely. There's another possibility that I'm going to go through in a moment, Ms. Jones. That's right. So the entire will would be void. So the entire will, what happens to the residuary device? The entire will is the residuary device. So it would pass by intestacy unless testator made some provision in the will otherwise, right? Let's say the will was silent, passes by intestacy. Might there be some other way? Could you think of some other factual situation which would say that despite the insane delusion, it doesn't pass by intestacy? Yes, Kelly won't take, but someone else might take. What if? What? DRR. How? Give me the fact for that. Yes.
Well, I guess like revoke his old will thinking that.
Yes. If he had a prior valid will and he revoked it on the mistaken belief, the insane delusion that he was going to be reincarnated as Kelly, so he was going to change his will and leave it to Kelly, and he couldn't have that, then the court could say, well, depending on how close that was or how far that was away from intestacy, maybe he dies intestate, or maybe the court will cancel or ignore the revocation of the prior will if the prior will is revoked under that mistake. Thought the second will was going to be valid. It wasn't because it was an insane delusion.
Give you an argument against that argument based on reincarnation. Getting rid of the property.
That's an interesting one. You're not getting rid of the property because of reincarnation, because after all, he really is going to be Kelly. I love it. I don't know the answer to that one. I certainly wouldn't ask you something quite that tricky on an example. I like that. That's an interesting little logical conundrum. So that's I saw Mr. Arbella, by the way, I saw 3 or 4 people say, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I agree. That's an interesting thought. That hadn't occurred to me. I like that. Again, I want to emphasize that if the entire will is the product of insane delusion, it'll be struck down. But if only a portion of the will is the product of an insane delusion, then only that portion of the will is the product of insane delusion, is denied probate. and the rest of the will be admitted unless for some reason a court finds that really it's all just so intertwined they can't separate one from the other and they have to strike the whole will down. This is true of insane delusion. It's true of undue influence. It's true of fraud, duress, or avoid bequest, as we'll see. If not the entire will, but only one provision, or one or more provisions, but less than the entire will, are the product of these challenges, these things that we can contest the will on, and we prove those things, then the rest of the will can be admitted to probate. It's just those testamentary dispositions that were a product of those bad things, those evil acts, or those, I don't want to say mistake, but insane, crazy acts, right? Or evil acts, those cannot be admitted to probate. What will happen will depend on, well, what does the will say? If those gifts will lapse and they'll fall into the residuary. What if they are the residuary? They may pass my intestate and may go to the other residuary legatees. If there's more than one, you have to see the facts, you have to see what the will says, and you have to see the make that. So it just okay. Question about that before we do undue influence. Pretty straightforward, right? This isn't too difficult. Like, this is another example of what I often say about this course, and that is, it's not that most of the rules are so difficult, maybe you all are, okay? But most of the rules are so difficult, there's just a lot of them. All right, let's talk about undue influence and duress. By the way, so what is undue influence? There's a definition in the Rothermill case. You'll see the definition on page 257. And how is undue influence different than duress? What is undue influence? Undue influence, what is it? Well, can you see anything that can see a definition on anywhere in the case? The court defines undue influence. What must the contestant prove? What are the elements of undue influence?
You have in 5 different categories, you're subject to control of
Right. Otherwise, just because you have undue influence doesn't mean you don't have sound mind, right? You might have sound mind, but you still might be under undue influence. So the two things are alternatives, all right? And implies testamentary capacity, but what? All right, you're on page 257 toward the middle of the page, right? The existence and exertion of an influence. Someone has to exert an influence over the testator, okay? And two, that's right. There is existence and exertion of an influence, and that influence is undue. That subverts or overpowers the testator's mind or will, right? I say, this is my last will and testament. I'm the testator. This is my last will and testament. Not if it's somebody else's will, it's not. Not if they've subverted my will and substituted their will for mine. And the third element is causation, right? Which is what? But for that undue. But for the exercise of that undue influence. We have to have influence exerted. It has to be undue, subverting testator's mind or will, and that will, or the testamentary disposition, is a product, is caused by that undue influence. The testator, but for that undue influence, the testator would not have left his property that way. Would not. The undue influence produced that disposition. Okay. So what happened in this case? What were the facts? Remember, testator changed her will when she was 93, and she left the will. She left her property to whom? To Lewis. Who's Lewis?
The son she was living with.
The son she was living with at the time. So who was disappointed about that?
Bill.
Okay, Bill's her other son, but Bill died, right? And she'd originally left her will, left her estate. I think it was equally to Bill and Lewis. Bill died. She I think, had been close to Bill. Bill died. She moved in with Lewis, and then Bill's really, it's Bill's widow, but really Bill's Bill's son, or grandson, was cut out of the will. And they were disappointed about that, and they claimed undue influence. What could they prove? Do they prevail? No, why not? Because it's hard to prove undue influence. Why? Causation is the most difficult to prove. Did they prove the opportunity for influence and even possibly the exertion of an influence by Lewis? Right, opportunity. She lived with Lewis and he took care of all of her day-to-day affairs, so he had plenty of opportunity to exert an influence. Did they prove that any influence he might have exerted subverted her own mind, that she was weak and she was easily misled into this or easily influenced in this? No, they didn't prove that. Why not? What was the evidence against that? Yeah, she was fine mentally, and she was a stubborn old bat. She knew her own mind, right? And no one could influence her. Some of her friends said, no one can influence this way, right? This isn't it. And then, of course, the causation. Even if there had been an influence, even if it could have subverted her mind, there was no proof that she executed that testament, leaving everything to Lewis. In her will, leaving everything to Lewis, cutting out Bill's family, that she did that as a product, as a result of that undue influence. Pretty difficult. Who has the burden of proving undue influence? That's right. Who has the burden of proving any one of these things? Insane delusion, undue influence, fraud, duress, etc. It's whoever's contesting the will. It's tough. It's difficult to prove. Causation is particularly difficult to prove, but the burden of proof is on the will contestant. I will tell you that in a number of other states, this is Texas. I'm going to test you. This isn't called Texas Rules and States, but it might as well be, because that's all I'm going to test you on is Texas law. Okay? But in a number of other states, when there is a will contest, because it's so difficult to prove something like undue influence, if a contestant meets some minimum threshold, raises some kind of prima facie case that there might have been undue influence, the burden shifts to the alleged undue influence to disprove that. Because it's going to be easier for them to disprove it than it is for the contestant to prove it generally. Texas doesn't shift that burden. Texas follows this rule. The contestant always has the burden of proving every one of the elements of every one of these counts. It's particularly difficult to prove. Okay. Oh, and pages 258 and 259, that last paragraph on 258, carrying over to 259, that begins generally, the establishment of existence. The court simply discusses the facts and circumstances that need to be examined, or need to be proven in order to determine, or to prove the three elements of undue influence. The problem is the contestant has the burden of proving those, and usually it's the alleged undue influencer who will have superior knowledge of whether those things occurred or not. Well, it's difficult. Page 259. Onward and upward. What are the elements? Note 1, who has the burden of proof, both direct and circumstantial. We talked about that. Which type of evidence do you think is used most often? Circumstantial. It's rarely direct that someone wrote a letter saying, I'm here to undo influence mom, right? Number 4, what types of circumstantial evidence may be used? You'll find that on that paragraph I just alluded to. Note 5, we've already talked about that. Well, actually, notes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all of these on the next couple of pages, all of these notes and note cases make the following points. I'm going to say a couple things about some of them. But the main point is that the mere opportunity, like Lewis had in the Robinell case, number 5, the mere opportunity to exert influence, that's not enough to establish undue influence. In other states, that's enough to shift the burden of proof to the alleged undue influence, or the burden of disproving undue influence. Not in Texas, not in Texas, not in Texas. The challenger, the will contestant, has the burden of proving each element, and the mere fact that the alleged undue influencer had the opportunity to exert an influence, that's not enough. The testament has to prove not only that, but that it was exercised, that it was undue, it subverted testator's own mind or will, and that the but-for causation element as well, and those are difficult to establish. Each case is highly fact-driven, and if you look at notes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's just the point is that each case is highly fact-driven. And undue influence is difficult to establish because, again, the exertion of the influence and the but-for causation element may be hard for the contestant to prove. One important fact, as the Rothermill case says, the Rothermill court says, one important fact is likely to be whether the testator made an unusual disposition of her property. That's what the Rothermill case said on bottom of 258, top of 259. One of the things that courts look at, one of the main pieces of circumstantial evidence is, finally, the establishment of the fact that the testament executed would not have been executed but for some influence is generally predicated upon a consideration of whether the testament executed is unnatural in terms of its disposition of property. Wouldn't you think that the testator in the Rothermill case would have left things equally to her two boys had they both been living, each was equally close to them? Yes. Is this an unnatural disposition? Well, no, it really isn't, because her first son, Bill, predeceased her, and she moved in with her second son, Louis, who took care of everything. That's not necessarily unnatural. Right? The daughter, her daughter-in-law and grandson look after it, or take care of it. That's not necessarily unnatural. These cases are very, very fact-driven. Let's see. Oh, note 11 talks about duress on page 261. Duress. How is duress different than undue influence? It's not the same as undue influence, but both duress and undue influence make testators basically of unsound mind because they subvert. It's not that they're of testators of unsound mind, but it subverts testator's own mind or will. So what is duress? How is it different than undue influence? I'm going to tell you, when we contest a will, almost always, even if we don't say testator was of unsound mind or was under insane delusion, if you say undue influence, you almost always say undue influence, fraud, and duress as alternative grounds. So how is duress different than undue influence? Violence or force, exactly right? Undue influence is simply maybe badgering. Please, please, please leave it to me. You know your other son, you know my brother is no good. Mom, leave everything to me. Mom, leave everything to me. Please, please, please. On the other hand, Mom, you know my brother is no good. Leave everything to me. Here's a will. I have a gun at your head. Sign it. Or here's your will. I'm not going to give you any food, and you can't feed yourself. I won't give you any food until you sign it. Right? It's violence or threat of violence or force. That's direct. It's more than just undue influence, pleading or lying or something like that. Okay? All right. Let's see what else. Note 12. Oh, Mortmain Act. Don't worry about note 12. Bottom of page 261. We've got about 5 minutes. You owe me 5 minutes, or I owe you 5 minutes? You owe me 5. No, don't you tell me this. You owe me. I let you out 5 minutes early last time, didn't I? I won't make the whole 5 minutes. Yeah, I did. Don't be shaking your head. I did.
That wasn't us.
What? Oh, come on. No. That's what the day class said to me, right? Oh, it wasn't us. It must have been the night class. So, okay. All right. So as long as I have 10 minutes, so I've got 5 minutes, and I'm going to introduce this subject at the bottom of page 261 and on to 262. I'm not going to talk about. I don't think I'm going to have time to talk about. Well, maybe I'll have time to talk about it. This is section 254.003, 254.003 in the Estates Code, which you will find on page 213. And this is gifts in a will, or for that matter, inter vivos gifts. They apply to, some of them apply to inter vivos gifts as well. 254.003 talks about a device. The disciplinary rules, the Code of Professional Conduct, talks about any gift. if the gift is to the attorney who drafted the will, or someone who's closely related to that attorney, okay, then there is, the issue could be raised of whether there might be undue influence involved, right? You're the testator, I'm your attorney who hired to draft the will, and you decide to leave me a significant gift in your will. I might have unduly influenced you, right? I'm in a position to take care of you, to take advantage of you, right? But we know, because we saw the Rockendahl case, the mere fact that I was in a position to influence you isn't enough. The will contestant who's trying to strike my gift under your will is going to have to prove all three elements, right? Not only that I was in a position to influence you, but that I did influence you, that I subverted your mind, and that you executed a will that you wouldn't have executed, or a gift you wouldn't have made, but for me exerting that undue influence. And the burden of proof is on the contestant, and that's awfully difficult to prove. But there's something different when there's an attorney. We think there's a higher standard, and there should be a higher standard when the attorney is involved. It might show undue influence or overreaching if the attorney who drafted the will gets a significant gift under that will. So in a matter of public policy, these gifts are void and may violate the attorney's ethical duties unless there's an exception, unless the attorney is also, the person who takes under the will is also closely related to the testator. But if there is no relationship between the person who takes, the attorney who drafted the will, or someone closely related to that attorney, and the testator, then that gift is declared to be void and may be unethical. And that's what 254.003 deals with. And DR 108 in subsection D, I think it's still subsection D, it might have gone to subsection C, but at the time of the Shields case, it's quoted in pertinent part on page 263 of the case book. It was disciplinary rule that's codified. That 108D, DR 108D, and section 254.003 of the Estates Code. Well, since you don't owe me 5 more minutes, let me stop right there and let me warn you of a couple things. You'll get questions about this on the final exam, I promise. One question about a void gift or an unethical gift under the disciplinary rules or under section 254.003. Gifts, the attorneys, that's the Shields case, that's the statutes and the cases afterwards, and I'm going to work some hypotheticals based on these things. We'll start with Shields and the hypos and see how these rules work on Thursday night when we come back. And we'll spend a fair amount of time, at least the first 15 or 20 minutes in class, probably going over these rules. And I'll ask you about it in December. Okay, so be careful. All right? We'll start there next time. Thank you. Remember the next row will be on call next time, right? You all will be on call next time. We're getting all the way down there.
That's so sad. It's like when books end, it's a dark hole of... That's why we should never read, right? Yeah.
To avoid the heartache.
The worst feeling ever is finishing a book by Aristotle. It's just... But you never really finish it. So.
That's why I only read it.
Wait, what do you only read? Oh, I should suggest a lot of good books. I'm telling you. I will send you a list. You got a surrogate baby? Oh. That would have been really interesting. Oh. Well, jolly good times.
Somebody made me get those emails and wondered what the hell is going on. They probably think they're being sued.